You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
For me, it's an obligation to have fun. It's an obligation to see the good in people. There is no time to put my energy in negative things.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Devers, and this is Clever. Today, I'm talking to Luca Nichetto. Luca is a multidisciplinary designer and art director working across a diverse array of projects, including furniture, lighting, spaces, textiles, products, brands, curated exhibits, and, well, anything that Luca finds interesting and pulled towards. Born in Venice, Italy, he grew up on the islands of Murano, steeped in the glassmaking traditions of the region and of his ancestors. In youth, he developed his talents for basketball and design side by side, excelling at both, but eventually deciding on design for the professional route. After a successful start, he opened his own practice, Nichetto Studio, in 2006, in his familiar home of Venice. And then, only 5 years later, and in support of his wife and starting a family, he moved to Stockholm, Sweden, and opened a second office. He's worked with brands such as Della Espada, Foscarini, Salvatore, Hermes, Vietman, and Steinway & Sons, among many, many others. His studio also puts out a podcast called Opinionated, and he's recently released a monograph published by Phaidon titled Nichetto Studio, Projects, Collaborations, and Conversations in Design. While his talents are undeniable, it's his generosity of spirit that gives his work its soul. And it's his gift for creating meaningful connections and his relentless and unapologetic quest for fun that makes him such a force of magic. Hear for yourself. Here's Luca.
I'm Luca Nichetto. I love to say that I'm an Italian designer because I'm really proud to come from Italy. I have two offices, one in Stockholm, where I am right now, and another one in Venice. I'm a designer and I'm designing things because I love that, and it's my way to think, to build up communities. And I love communities.
I've only known you a little while, but community is definitely central to your being. Before we get to the center of your being, let's go back to the beginning of your being. I really need to know about young Luca so I can understand how this Luca came to be. So take me back to your early years and tell me the story of your childhood.
So I'm born in Venice, but I grew up and raised in Murano, this little island in the Venetian lagoon, famous for glass blowing. For me, seeing a drawing that was becoming an object was like almost going to buy a piece of bread. My grandfather was a glass blower, my mother decorating glass. 99.99% of my friends and relatives was involved with the glass industry. People say that I was skilled in drawings, and I was super fascinating of Tutankhamun. I was reading book about Tutankhamun all day. I was so attracted from the beautiness of the Tutankhamun mask and drawing and redrawing that. So in the end, when it was the moment to pick a high school, I was kind of good to convince my parents to let me study in Institute of Art in Venice. Institute of Art at that time was one of the oldest high school in Italy that teach, let's say, to the student to understand different kind of craftsmanship. So it was a more than a normal high school. It was a sort of professional high school to prepare you to go to work.
A sort of craft vocational high school?
Yes.
Interesting.
And there was different section. So you have courses or wherever, and then you have your specific workshop based on the section that you pick. And the different sections was, I don't know, ceramics, jewelry, textile, and there was also glass. And of course, I picked glass. During the summertime, when the school was finished, with my classmates, we were doing like sort of ritual. We prepared a folder full of drawings, and each of us with his folder, grabbing his folder, we were going around Murano, knocking the door of the different factory to sell these drawings to them, but not because we want to be designer. I have no idea that exists a job like that. It was just to make money, to have fun with my friend, to go, I don't know, to dance in disco or whatever.
Okay, the entrepreneurial part of you is kicking in early. You knew you were good at drawing, and you knew these factories made things from drawings. So you just went and knocked on the door and said, "Who's in charge? Will you buy my drawing?"
Yes, exactly like that.
What was their interest in buying your drawing? They liked it enough to turn it into a product?
I mean, I'm talking about end of 80s, beginning of 90s. So Murano was in a kind of much better shape than now. They need somehow this kind of creativity, and more things they have, more they can be exclusive somehow. Plus, I'm part of generation that my parents really pushed me every summer since I was 12 to have a summer job, just to understand if you want something, you need to have the money to get that. And if you want money, you need to work. I did many different jobs, but this one was the easiest one for me. So it was the one that came from my passion for drawings without any clue in what I was doing. So I can't call that project, it was pure drawings. And that was a way to have fun, to be honest. It was a way to have some money in the pocket and going to Jesolo, that is a beach, to dance with my friends. After the graduation at the high school, that was the moment to decide what to do. I forgot to tell you that I was also a very good basketball player.
Yeah, I was going to ask that if you didn't get there. Because I want to know the trajectory on when you earnestly began developing your talent for basketball and really investing in the culture of team sports, and the orchestration that goes on the court, I think, is really interesting. So at what point did this start seeping into your consciousness and really influencing your thoughts and your physicality?
I was always one of the tallest one when I was a kid. And my mother, she don't like soccer, only because otherwise she need to wash too much my uniform and stuff. So she rather, but this is the truth, she rather prefer that I play basket that was a little bit more clean in that sense. I start to train myself on basket, and later on I discovered that I was also quite good. I didn't discover by myself. I discovered mostly because other people or other teams was asking to my parents if I can join their teams.
You were in demand.
I was not conscious about that at all. For me, it was just sport and fun with my teammates. And then the major team of Venice that was playing in the big league, they somehow trade me. And so from Murano, I moved to play with the young teams of like a club. In this club, there was the best player of the Venice area. So I started to, knowing other people, understanding what I was good to do, what I was bad to do, or what I can improve. Also, the training was, in the beginning, was 2 per week, then become 3 per week, then become 5 per week, then become 6. So I was the entire week playing basketball. And was beautiful in one side, extremely hard to the other side, because I see all my friends have fun, meeting girls, hanging out, dating with maybe girls that I like it, but I can't have any chance because I was training myself. So I find, in a way, a sort of dedication in what I was doing. So I was extremely focused because I said, if I don't have fun with my friend, at least I need to be very good in what I'm doing.
You were aware of what you were sacrificing and you were channeling that energy.
And that moment was also the moment that I realized a sort of leadership rules that the teammates gave to me, not because I was the best player, but they listen to me. When I protect them, they appreciate that. When I insult another player of the other team, they protect my back. So there was a sort of chemistry that you start to realize that is there. And then later, I'm talking when I was mostly a teenager, I was arriving almost to decide, I want to be professional, and there was a chance to that, or I go in the direction of my skills, in my, let's say, what I want to do in terms of education. Because I knew at that time that to do the two things together was impossible for me because
they required so much dedication.
Exactly. And also for this mindset that I developed to be very focused in one thing that I want to do. And I don't like to lose. Then I understand, seeing also with my teammates, I realized that I was good, but not enough good to be one of not only professional player, but one of the best professional player. So I say, if I can't be like that, let's try to be to the other side. And that was the moment that I started to check what kind of university, where to go to study. I don't want to study architecture because for me it was super boring, and I visualize architecture not for the beautiness that you can do through architectural project, but mostly was not the output, because I see only geometrical line and people drawing, like in a CAD, a plan and that was not really me.
Yeah, it's very abstract for a very long time. Few architects actually get to realize glorious buildings.
Yeah, and then there was the art academy, but then I don't want to be an artist. I don't see myself as a painter or as a sculptor. And then I discovered that at University of Venice, they start a new program that was called Disegno Industriale, Industrial Design. So I start to read through the program, the description of the program, and I said, well, it's not so bad. And it's also close from where I live. I can stay here, my friend is here. Let's give a shot to that. And the first 6 months was a trauma, a big trauma. I want to quit. I really want to quit. It was so boring. It was horrible. It was about learning 3D modeling. There was the first 3D studio that for to do a rendering, you need to open the computer and leave the computer work for 5 days to have a picture like that.
Oh, right. Yeah. That was rough.
Yeah. They was teach me what is a pixel, what is a byte, something that for me was completely useless. There was another professor about material and process. It was too abstract, so there was not really, okay, I understand this process and where I apply that. And so there was no connection. Thanks God, my exam after this first semester was okay, and then give me a little bit of energy to say, okay, let's try to finish at least the first year, and then I will take a decision. And the second semester, there was 2 old professors. Both of them was retired, but they teach for passion. And one was Antonio D'Avanzo. He was the former assistant of Carlo Scarpa in Venice. And the second one was Vittorio Rossi, that was the former assistant of Franco Albini in Venice. So these two old men opened the biggest door ever for me that was not teach me nothing. They just make me curious. And that was the trigger that really pushed me to be focused in industrial design, to be curious.
How did they help that? How did they encourage your curiosity?
Antonio Davanzo was teaching me interior architecture. I was sketching all the time to do this project. I was sketching the bricks and everything. And I remember that he was passing through the different, let's say, desk where we were drawing. And when he came to my desk, he stopped. He take a pencil that was on my desk, and he hurt me so bad with this pencil in my head. And I look at him, and I say,
he just whapped you with the pencil, like upside your head? Yeah. Okay.
And I look at him, I say, oh, sorry, what is the reason? And he look at me and say, it's pretty clear that you are talented, but you are not checking, you are not reading books, you are not checking how a section of a metal profile is done. You need to read this book. You need to go to visit this metal supplier that was the supplier of the Olivetti store of Carlo Scarpa in Venice. So he started to give me a bunch of tips. And I said, oh, thank you, professor. Part of my head, but the rest is fine now. This kind of attention, also kind of a rude one. But when someone is rude with you, sometimes because he really care of you. And so give me really, so I went to the metal supplier. It was an old man called Zanon that showed me all the profile, how he was welding, etc., etc.
I love that you remember his name.
Yeah, I learned so much from these people, much more than what I learned at university, to be honest. So this was the first situation that really pushed me to be curious. Vittorio Rossi was more theoretical in a way, more human-centered. So everything was very humanistic, was not in doing things, but was more thinking about who we are as a human being.
Why we do things, what we need, how we meet those needs. Yeah.
And that was also another trigger because I never asked that question to myself before. So that's oh, wow, that is cool. It's fun that two old men that is around 80s are the most younger one inside this university. And so then I decided to continue. And I decided to continue also my ritual of knocking the door of the different factory in Murano until was the year before my graduation. I have an old friend of mine that was working for Salviati. That was one of the most prestigious brands in Murano at that time. And Salviati was collaborating with artists like Anish Kapoor, there was Thomas Ederwick, there was Ross Lovegrove, there was Ingo Maurer, Alessandro Mendini, Tom Dixon. So a lot of people that I was studying in a way or observing what they were doing in the magazine, etc., they was working for Salviati. I went to Salviati thanks to the introduction of my old friend Dario, and introduced me to the art director of the company. It was Simon Moore. Simon was from England, and he was a professor at Royal College of Art. I present to Simon my famous folder full of drawings, and Simon told me, "Oh wow, I like it. I will buy everything." And I said, wow, my summer would be amazing.
Yeah.
And then I said, I don't need to go, with other tour. It's done. Perfect. But then he told me a sentence that changed my life. Because he told me, it's pretty clear that you are talented, but it's also clear that you don't understand nothing of what a company needs. But I want to show you respect for your talent, but I want to ask you, only if you want, because I know that you are from Murano, if you have time, you can pass here in the factory once per week or twice per week, and I will explain you what we need.
Whoa, that's an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, so my first reaction was, who is this crazy guy that spend money and then you want also teach me how to do things? I say, okay, that is cool. Let's try. So I start to every week visiting the factory, and I met all these guys that I mentioned before. First one was Ross Lovegrove. Then I met Ingo Maurer, Tom Dixon, Anish Kapoor. And it was amazing because it was amazing. There was like hero for me, physically there. All of them was so nice with me, all of them. I was asking immediately advice. I remember to Ross, I was asking, Ross, listen, but if I want to work for Issey Miyake, what I need to do? And he was looking at me and said, are you crazy? Maybe you can start with another company or. But all of them was so nice. And what for me was incredible was also to have the chance as a young student designer, wherever I was, to observe the different personalities and the different output and how they present themselves when they present ideas. So there was people presenting sketches, people presenting beautiful rendering, other technical drawings, other just talking, other just sketching on the floor. So it was interesting for me to see this incredible, variety of output. So I continued this, I call it my PhD. 6 months before to finish my study at college, finally I had the chance to receive the first brief from Simon, where he was asking me to use an ancient technique that was creating bubble inside the glass and to design a new collection of vases. So I designed this guy, this guy.
Listeners can't see that, Luca.
I know.
You have to get the book.
I designed this collection of vases called Mille Bolle, that means 1,000 bubble, like a song, Italian song. And this collection became quickly the bestseller of the company. That was the moment where, for the first time, I hear about royalties and contracts. And Simon was telling me, if you want that we pay you for these products, you need to sign a contract and you need to be able to invoice us. I said, I don't know how I can do that. I have no idea. And so I start to inform myself about that. So I opened my freelance position only for that reason. And when I opened my freelance position, I realized that, fuck it, I need to finish college. And now I'm starting to pay taxes by myself, even before that I finished my graduation. And that was the moment that I realized that I need to work hard in finding other projects.
So the royalties that were streaming in from their most successful product was just a taste of the sort of business structure that you knew you were going to need to build in order to be sustainable in the design world.
Yeah, I have no idea about any kind of business. I was totally naive. I really like this motto of learning by doing. Even more in what we are doing, I think is a perfect motto. And this is how I built my career. I did a lot of mistakes. A lot.
Ooh, I love a good mistake story. Tell me a mistake.
I don't know how to start it. Trusting the first person that approached me to design a chair, and designing the chair, giving the project, helping him to find the supplier, etc., without any form of contract.
Oh, yeah. That's a tough one, but got to learn that.
And then the chair is gone, including also my names and my copyright, everything. Then other mistakes, starting a collective studio with other designers without to really know each other properly, and figuring out that we were so different that in the end we were almost close to destroy our friendship for this job.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, those are rough lessons to learn, but like really important ones as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't regret that this happened, because after that I was much more objective in what to pick and what to say. Maybe it's not the right moment, or let's sign a contract before to start everything else.
But there were also successes that sort of propelled you up to the point of starting your own studio. So where did you get your traction from? And how did you keep growing your passion for the field, even while, it's not easy and you're making these mistakes that are setbacks, but good ones?
I think I have a disease that I'm not able to stay for a long time in my comfort zone.
You have an itchy soul. That's what I call that.
Yeah. I was always attracted for things that I never experienced, and in every level. This really pushed me to explore different opportunities, different typologies. I remember when I had the opportunity, I was working with Cassina, that is, it's a dream for a lot of designers, and especially for Italians.
Yeah.
And I was pretty young. But at the same year that I started to work with them, there was a Chinese startup that approached me. It was 2012. That was a young, let's say, distributor in China that asked me to design their building, their showroom. And I say, guys, but you know that I'm not an architect. Say, yes, but you can do it. And so I jumped and we did. And I was traveling in Beijing once every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And after 3 months, there was a building designed by us. I don't think it's a great building, but I did a building.
Yeah. Good thing you didn't go to architecture school. It would have taken you so much longer to get something built.
So, I don't know. I think there is, at the end, a lot of gut feeling, right? So you need to trust your instinct, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but at least you trust yourself. And then it's so fun, because this push you in direction that is not just collecting names in a portfolio or cool collaboration or whatever, but it's really like having the opportunity to work for big brand or very interesting brand, or with brand that nobody knows, or doing fashion, doing architecture, working in Botswana. So I don't judge what I'm doing through a single product. I like to see the whole package.
The aerial view, the macro.
This is my project. It's not the single one, but it's the entire thing. So this is my universe, let's say.
I think a lot of people take a lot longer to get to that point, to recognize that they are actually the architects of their own lives, creating this universe of interesting projects, of people you like to work with, of adventurous deals and design challenges to get involved in does require a kind of improvisational, instinctual speed of decision-making, of understanding. Do you think any of that came from basketball?
No, I think it's coming mostly from the glass industry, because glass is a beautiful material, is magic, but it's liquid. So it's a sort of honey that crystallizes through the touch of the people. You need to create a relationship with the glass blower that is in the front of 1,000 degrees. And you need to be able to transfer to this person, what is your idea? Accepting the compromise, because will never be exactly what you want, but will be very close. And even more, you need to have a process of decision making so quick, because in 1 second, if you don't say stop, the shape is different.
Yeah, it's very time sensitive.
For sure. So I think this kind of lesson is probably connect to what we were talking before. But it's not only that. I need to tell you one thing that not many people knows. I was coming in New York many times for different clients. And once I was with one of my clients, and he was telling me that he was working with a life coach. And I say, a life coach? So means someone that is doing a sort of therapy or session with you to help you. Say, yeah, kind of. It's a person that will help you, to be more focused in a moment that you need to deal with many situations. So that is interesting that a professional person, manager, was working with a life coach to help him to deal with business problems, etc. So I come back in Europe and I was start to thinking, I have a counter that is a consultant. I have a lawyer that is a consultant. I have a PR that sometimes is a consultant. Maybe I need a consultant also for this. It's nothing bad. I called this friend of mine and said, can you give me the name? Her name is Ozzy. She's based in New York. And I started to work with her 3.5 years ago, approximately. And she really, really helped me.
Wow. How so?
I mean, she was so good to bring my frustration with my team, with my client. I was going the route that now, if I'm looking at that, I would say, but why I was so crazy? I was crazy because I was in a washing machine. I was not able to...
Thinking in circles and yeah.
So she was so good in say, Luca, you are good. It's nothing bad. You just need to think about that it's not always responsibility of other people. Depends also how you create a relation with other people, how you ask things, how you feel things, how you cut maybe some relation, how you negotiate. So we start to work in different methods, first with my internal team, after how I can deal with the client, and of course also with my private life, because it's connected.
Yeah, it's all intertwined. And of course, anything you learn about relating to others in your studio, of course, applies to relating to others at home in your most intimate relationships.
And this helped me a lot, especially during COVID. And because she really told me, I said, now is your time. I said, for what? To do what? And she said, yeah, you were complaining that you were always traveling, that you don't have time to drawing anymore, etc. Now is your time. And then you say, fuck, you're right. It's my time. Finally, I can go back and doing what I love most. In fact, the 2 years of COVID for me was probably the 2 best years in terms of creativity.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah.
I was somehow curating or healing myself through the trauma that was outside to creating things.
That makes a lot of sense.
So I was happy. I have my schedule, I have my team sync. Of course, in the beginning, I was worried about the economical situation. I can deal with that, and that. But when I figured out that I can survive at least 2 years with the saving that I had, then I say, if in 2 years I'm not able to figure out the situation, is correct that I'm going bankruptcy.
You just accept it. It's sort of like, well, if you let the glass cool too fast or drop it, it's going to shatter.
Yeah, Ozzy was my star in a way. And so a lot of good things that we were able to do recently is for sure thanks also to her.
I'm really happy that you told this story because I think there is a misconception out there about how we need to do things ourselves. I mean, we're starting, I think, to understand mental health a little bit better and give that more space in the public dialogue. I think it's impossible and stupid for us to think that you could go to design school and learn to be a designer, but not learn about the design business, which is something you had to figure out on your own, not learn how to be necessarily a manager, run a studio, have all these relationships, keep all of these projects and balls in the air, and know how to do that perfectly. Like we do need training in that regard. And you telling this story also probably alleviates, like, I feel a collective sigh of relief around the world of people listening and realizing, I just need help. It's not that I'm supposed to know how to do all of this or that I'm supposed to be good at every aspect of all of this. I just need help.
First, I agree 300% with you. Second, I think the design world for a long time, since probably Stark appeared, celebrate the designer as the face of the object, as the human that create that object, especially in the 90s, generation older than me become a sort of superstar. A little bit what happened in the fashion with the supermodel. The truth is that push, in my opinion, each of us to be very isolated, to think only about our little, let's say, kingdom, drive by how many publications we have, how much successful you are, successful that I don't understand, by the way, from who is coming saying if you are successful or not, without to consider that you can be that kind of person in a community that appreciates what you are doing. And this community is the one that supports you or not. And right now, I think is the moment to support each other because that era is gone.
Hallelujah. Amen. Preach. I think that without a kind of collective discourse that is centered in, of course, celebrating each other, but also holding each other accountable. Not only do we strengthen our community and our connective tissues, but we also elevate the field and the craft and its power to actually be a healing agent in society as opposed to an extractive agent. It can be generative and healing if we place a lot of the power in this equitable exchange of intellect, emotion, creative labor, and discourse.
I agree with you. I think it's absolutely what we need to do, but there's still a bit too much hypocrisy.
Well, that's part of the holding each other accountable, right?
Yeah. We need action. We need to be accessible to people. And what I'm saying that is there is no problem for me to invite friends of mine to work with my client, also if I'm not the art director. And we are different. We are different people. We are doing different things. And I rather prefer that I have a friend working with the same client than to have an enemy, for example. We need to talk much more open about many things, how that client treats you, how much they pay you. Just, to balance the thing, if you keep these secrets, then there is no negotiation that will allow us, especially the young generation, to step up to really being able to live with this profession.
Agreed. If we sort of protect that information, which is culturally we've been sort of programmed to do, we also keep ourselves in a position of less power than if we share that information, if we help to actively engage in the distribution of resources, including that kind of information. And as you are so generous, your clients, actually connecting your clients to other designers that you have already vetted for their integrity and their talent and, their ability to deliver.
But then it's a karma in a way, because when you are doing that, at the end of the day, in 1 year, in 3 years, in 5 years, this is coming back to you. Maybe not with a new client, but maybe with something else. And think about also, if we are thinking more into the business side, now we are small studio, because most of the designers are, let's say, small studios. I have a studio in Stockholm and one in Venice. We are 8, 9 people. Most of my client, of course, is around Europe, and then, of course, I have a client in the States, in Asia, etc. But if I'm partnering with other studio in Asia or other studio in the States, it will be also more sustainable because I don't need to travel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good point.
But not only for the sustainability point of view, but it can be very interesting, Sana, Sejima, it is an association of different studios of architecture that when they need to do bigger projects, they work together. When they need to do smaller projects, they work separately. See, think about this in a bigger scale in terms of design, studios, friends, people that sharing things. You can have an impact in the world.
Yes, you can have much bigger impact.
100%. I don't know if this will never happen, but I like to think that at least to try to create this kind of connection. Then let's see what happens. But I really enjoy connecting people.
As I was researching you and looking into the way you work, it seems to me that connecting of dots, of people, of capabilities, of various aspects of the whole project, but mostly the relationships, that connecting is kind of your specialty.
I love people.
Well, that's good.
On a sort of level, and I'm glad to be considering that level, we are all equal talented. So if you are able to recognize the talent is always different from your talent. As I say, we are different people. 1 + 1 is not equal 2, but is equal 3. So if you work with this idea and you connect it, the result will be always more amazing than what you can do alone.
It's the power of compound interest.
Probably this I learned playing basketball. Everyone have a different rule. And when you put this, you can't have a team with only stars.
Well, and the assists and the rebounds are just as important as the baskets. Yeah.
Yeah. And also the guy that is sitting the bench for 39.8 minutes, he played 20 seconds. That 20 seconds can be the most important 20 seconds of the game. It's just so fascinating for me to see what can happen connecting people. It's like a physical brainstorming, no? Because thinking the thing is taking shape, is creating an object, is creating a scenography, is creating an installation. By the way, when you have a studio with people in the studio, it's not only my job, it's also the work of the other people in my studio that somehow influence myself.
Of course, yeah. All those perspectives.
People from different culture. I see things in a way, but a person from the States see it in a different way, or a person from Asia or China in another way. And you need to train yourself, not in judging, no, that is right or that is wrong, but just say, okay, there is different angle, and appreciate that different angle. So I think at the end of the day, you will be a better person, not a better designer, but a better person.
I agree 150,000%. And I think that, that's something that was, I think, readily apparent when I met you. And thank you again for participating in our Emerging Designer Showcase and, sharing your wisdom with emerging designers. I think that was really cool of you. But what I noticed about you personally is it's a kind of generosity of spirit, but even more than that, you scan your environment and people that you meet for their promise, for their interest, for their best qualities. And you seem to find those rather than looking for their flaws or shortcomings or sort of snap judgment of their character. And in doing so, I think you also see the world around you in a much sort of more richer, technicolor, vibrant way because you're appreciating the humanity of everyone.
Yes and no.
Oh, okay. What's the no?
The no is I also sometimes jump into the judging people from maybe a designer, maybe for something that I don't like, or journalists because ask me very boring question, or people that maybe just use a tone of voice that I don't like. But immediately after this feeling of disliking, I try to say, okay, fine, let's look what I like. And I always, as you say, try to find the positive side, because I learn by doing and I learn by mistakes that if I'm not in this kind of mood in appreciating people and being, I don't want to abuse the word happy, but to be in a sort of, in a good mood, I'm not able to do my job. I'm not a good person because I have this gray, shade on me, and I'm not able to have fun. And for me, as I say in the beginning, to consider myself and what I'm doing a sort of privilege, you need to have fun. It's an obligation. For me, it's an obligation to have fun. It's an obligation to see the good in people. There is no time to put my energy in negative things.
It is an energy drain.
It's destroying you.
With that in mind, can you give me a snapshot of what's going on in your studio currently? I would like to know kind of the aerial view. You've got a bunch of different projects going on. You're kind of a creative or art director for a bunch of different brands. And your creative role in that is as much a designer as it is a connector and manager. So, yeah, can you give me a snapshot of what your life looks like?
Honestly, right now is a mess because we are...
Yeah, because Milan.
Yeah, exactly. But apart the mess of preparing Milan, we are working in mostly in the furniture field. That's still one of our main let's call it market or output. So for in Milan, for example, we are going to do an installation for La Manufacture. That is a French brand that I'm art directing inside the Museum Paul di Pezzoli. Then we are doing one of my favorite projects because it's connecting dots.
Yeah.
An installation with a brand that is called Vitale Barberis Canonico. Is the oldest producer in the world of wool textile for high-end tailor shop and fashion brand. We are creating a fantastic world that is a sort of gentleman club where there is 9 anthropomorphic lamps that still symbolize hypothetical characters that are going to this gentleman club, like a detective or a teacher or a musician or the businessman. And these lamps are dressed using the textile of the brand with their clothes, their dress to represent the character of that specific.
Ooh,
So
you're not afraid of character and story, that's for sure.
no, I like to do storytelling projects. And this case is almost more than the object or the scenography. It was more really to create a story, an experience. And then we have the booth for Wittmann and bunch of products for Wittmann. That is another is about Austrian brand that we are art directing. In New York, we present our first outdoor kitchen. In Italy, we are presenting our first kitchen for Scavolini. And then we have sofas, chair. That is also nice. Another project that is cool is a chess set that is called Flirt. So is assembling different typology of products, like a chair, a table, a chess set, and a lamps. You create a bubble. You create an environment almost, just putting this object together.
A world of sorts.
Yeah, and we did that for Salvatori. And then we are working in the music industry and...
Yes, tell me about the Steinway collaboration.
Yeah, that is we are going to launch a piano with a limited edition piano with Steinway and Sons during the fall. And the Steinway collaboration born in a funny way. Because I landed in New York, I take a picture and I post in my Instagram with, let's say it was Good Morning New York or something like that. And then I take a cab to go to Mark Thorpe and Claire Place. And I was bored in the cab with the traffic and checking everything that I can in my phone. And I checked LinkedIn. And I saw a message from Robert Polan, that was the vice president of custom piano of Steinway and Sons, that was asking me for an appointment or a cafe because he saw my post in Instagram. Oh,
he'd been following you and saw that you were in New York, and so
yeah. And then I say yes straight away. The day after I met him, and I asked about why you text me, how was and he told me that he was scouting for a while some potential designer for Steinway, and my names pop up different times from different person in his radar. And when he started to follow me, the day after, I was in New York.
Oh, so it was wow, kismet, yeah.
Yeah, so it was pure coincidence. He asked me if I want to try, and there was no commitment. And I say, this is one lifetime project. Of course I will try. And I tried, he liked it, and then there was some correction to do. So there was a little bit of up and down in the beginning. He really liked my way also that we were talking of connecting people and suggesting working with this one. So in the end, he asked me also to be a sort of consultant as a sort of creative director consultant for the custom piano. And so right now, part of the piano, I'm also doing this consultancy, and Rob become also a friend.
Yeah, and I read something in your book where you said something along the lines that the friendship is the engine that powers the work. And I thought that was really beautiful because it speaks to the nature of when you're truly invested in somebody else, you want to be your best and do your best work with them and for them. And it also empowers the work with a kind of joy of community. I don't know, it just really resonated with me when I read that because it really did feel to me like you're not just a client or designer. You are kind of making this large family around the world. That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I work with people that I was not able to build a relationship.
Yeah.
And the result was always a shit. But maybe it's because of me. I can't work with someone that I don't feel trustness and a relation that we are building something together. We are partner in crime. We have also fun together. And when there is bad moment, we will help each other. When there is the good moment, we celebrate together. And for me, for example, when I was in New York a couple of weeks ago, and I had the chance to see the prototype, the piano for the first time.
Woo, how exciting.
Yes. For me, one of the most beautiful things was going in a bar in Brooklyn with the team of Rob and my team and singing in a karaoke. That for me is exactly how also the guys in my studio build a relationship with the guys in Stanway. And that is amazing. It's even more amazing than the piano himself, because the piano is a result of this, not the other way around.
So, quick backstory question. Do you believe your work with Rosie also helped for you to build this friendship with Rob?
Was Rob to introduce me to Ozzy?
Isn't that amazing? Okay. Your friendship is also based on this mutual desire to be the best people you can be. And so, of course, there's going to be some respect there if you can see, the other person working on overcoming, their challenges or shortcomings.
Yes, but I think it's also dedicating your time and your network to people. For example, I remember just before COVID, I had a trip in the States, first in New York, and then me and Rob, we flew together in Los Angeles, and we went to Pasadena and Beverly Hills, looking the Stanway & Sons showrooms, meeting the management there. And then there was a party in Hollywood, Casa Perfect. I received the invitation, and so I said to Rob, come with me. That was a very beautiful moment because we were both, in a way, out of our routine, and was a way also to enjoy the time together in a beautiful location and talking about design. There was some of my pieces that I designed for the La Espada there. So I was showing to him this. There was our common friend, Maggie, that was there. And
yes,
I didn't know.
Maggie. Shout out to Maggie.
It was beautiful. And I think in the end, relationship and in our job, you build also through this kind of situation, not only when you are working something.
So you were not just working on something, you are actually experiencing life together.
Yes, I try to do all the time, to be honest.
Not some people are just have their head in the sand. I mean, experiencing life is sort of way too general because, of course, that's what we're all doing every day. But when you are in this relationship that's a professional one and you get a chance to mix it up in a way that exposes, other sides of your world to each other, I do think it helps to facilitate the deepening of the mutual intimacy.
Yes, but it's also could be also a very fragile moment because you are open.
Vulnerable.
You are very vulnerable. And you need to learn to stay open because it's very easy to put armature after that you or someone hurt you a couple of times. So you need to keep going. It's a sort of exercise to stay open and with the risk that sooner or later someone will hurt you. But you need to look at the positive side. There is much better positive side than the bad one.
What's the positive side?
The positive side is that in the end, if you are open, you build up people that really care of you deeply. Doesn't matter what you are doing. And the bad side is there will be some asshole that don't understand that.
There's always an asshole. Always an asshole creeps into the mix.
there is always, but that you need to consider that is part of our life. There will be always someone that hurt us. And thanks God there is these people. Because then, you can show that they were wrong. Or maybe they were right, but for you they were wrong. And you move on. So it's also, they can be also a trigger to be a better person.
Absolutely. And they can also teach you a lot about your power to heal yourself from the hurt.
100%.
So I want to talk about your book because it's really refreshing. First of all, it's your first monograph. It's recently released by Phaidon. It's called Nichetto Studio: Projects, Collaborations, and Conversations in Design. And I particularly appreciate the conversations part. I know that as designers, we're all accustomed to beautiful object porn and glossy photos, but you kind of took us inside your process and showed us a chronologue of your projects, but also the sketches and some of the contextual information that led to it. But then you also, through the two co-authors, you also included your relationships and those connections and those relationships and how they informed you at that stage in your life. I think it just tells a very honest story of who you are. And that honesty, I think, helps to connect with the work. There are also some really important lessons that are in there that I think is really interesting. A lot of the conversations also kind of give us a window into various aspects of the industry that isn't necessarily always visible, and that's fascinating. But it also helps us see a window into your soul and the things that matter to you and how you've evolved as a person and as a practitioner. And so the book feels like it has a lot of heart. I found myself skipping past the pictures and getting right into the text, which is kind of the opposite for most design books.
Yeah.
Not that the pictures aren't great, they're glorious, but the text was just wonderfully honest and transparent picture of you. And I think that's incredibly vulnerable and important to be that way in a book like that, so that we can have an actual contextual reference point for what it takes to do what you do.
I appreciate that you catch that side because it's really what I want to achieve with this book. It's built as a diary. Is a like when you are a teenager that you are collecting the picture of your heroes or wherever and you put in your diaries, but through my project. And I want to show also the dirty side of design practice, because A lot of time people are talking about us as a brand. I'm not a brand.
Nor
I'm
are
a
you a
person.
machine. Yeah, no, sometimes they talk about labor as machines too, and that really sort of irritates me because creative labor is not mechanized.
No, and you can be a brand being yourself. And I think it's the easiest way, for me at least. There is other colleagues of mine that are fantastic. They build up a sort of character of themselves that is the public face of them, and then privately they're another person. I don't know how to do that. I will suffer of double personality, I think, in doing it. So I'm not able to do that kind of exercise. So I say, doing this book, I want really to give a sort of context of the moment when I was operating and the moment that I was doing a sort of product or projects and the people that helped me to do that. Because without them, I would never be able to do that. Also, talking about a sort of topics was, I hope, that a young designer or someone that is looking at this beautiful world of design, because it's amazing, can be inspired by some adventure of myself and thinking, say, oh shit, you can do this also in a different way. You can have your own path. You don't need to be that city or that other one. So do your things and be yourself. The book is really born and developed as a project. So I just prepared the ingredient and then I gave the ingredient to Max Fraser and Francesca Picchi, that are friends, and then Henrik Nygren, that is the graphic designer. So we work together, but I don't want to be, the designer that is doing the book by himself. So he's treating the book as a catalog of the macho performance that he had. So I say, guys, this is what I did. Now you need to judge me and picking what for you is good. And I will be totally fine with that because this is what I want.
I mean, in many ways, that's a more accurate assessment, is how you're perceived by the outside world than how you see yourself. I mean,
exactly. So otherwise, why I need to do a book where I'm talking with myself?
Yeah, that sounds so boring. Not you talking to yourself, but like if I had to just create something by talking to myself, I would just really.
Yeah. Well, just a couple of hours ago, I was checking the press release that we need to add to our newsletter. And I was bored to read about myself. So I don't know, maybe it sounds very, how to say, hypocrite what I'm saying, but I'm bored about that. I would love to have someone that came a couple of days in my studio and describe what I did without that I need to say nothing, because then in the end is what the normal people will understand.
Yes, that's very self-aware of you. I mean, you have exciting projects coming out. Your studio feels like it's thriving and healthy. Are you still working with Rosie?
Yeah.
That part of your life is on track. What would you want more of? What are you hoping for? Where would you point yourself for the future?
I think next step would be probably doing something that for a long time I did for the others. And probably I would do more exploring fields that I never explored before. These I will keep going for sure. And then probably I would love one day to do a little brand, a little company, but not with the goal to become another Moy or with, as Marcel did, or another Tom Dix, not with that goal. I want to do something like a little gem, something very tiny, but very special in terms of object without having limitation would be limited, would be gallery pieces, or would be serious pieces, would be fashion, would be eyewear, would be fragrances. I don't care. I want to do something, could be also a new recipe to do a cake. I just love the idea to do something that is a celebration of creativity and run by myself.
I like that. Small, special projects that celebrate creativity and become something meaningful that somebody else can work with or hold on to.
And then invite all my friends, including you.
Oh, I'm in. I'm already thinking about what I'm going to contribute. Yeah.
Good.
Luca, you are a force of magic. Thank you for sharing your story and your generosity of spirit with me. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Amy. It was super nice to talking with you. And I really hope to see you soon.
Thanks for listening. To see images of Luca, his teenage basketball team, his work, and learn more about him, read our show post on our website. Click the link in the details of this episode on your podcast app, or go to cleverpodcast.com. There, you can also sign up for our newsletter. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Clever on Overcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what we're doing, please consider supporting us by rating our show, writing a review, or chatting us up on social. On Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, you can find us at Clever Podcast. You can find me at Amy Devers. Clever is hosted and produced by me, Amy Devers, with editing by Rich Straffolino, production assistance from Ilana Nevins and Anushka Stefan, and music by L1011. Clever is part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. Visit airwavemedia.com to discover more great shows. They curate the best of them, so you don't have to.